tonight on CBC Vancouver News. Crying out for help.
Living this, it just breaks me up. How anybody could do that to an older man.
A Musqueam elder says his pleas for safe, livable housing have gone unheard. Plus, balancing a fun city with a peaceful one.
There are a lot of noisy vehicles. Particularly this corner is almost unbearable.
We should be able to express ourselves and live very, very fun as long as we're respecting each other's.
The city wants to hear just how loud or quiet your neighborhood can get. And that summer-like heat you've heard about, it's here.
It's extremely unusual to reach 30 degrees in BC in mid-May.
What to know as the mercury climbs this weekend.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Michelle Ghoussoub. Anita is away tonight. The heat has already started to build, and it's only going to get hotter. A special weather statement is in effect for much of BC this weekend, with temperatures expected to hit the low to mid-30s in some places. As Joel Ballard reports, experts are warning that this prolonged heat can have adverse effects both on the environment and our health.
The sun is out, which means Vancouverites are hitting the beach. And while it may be the perfect weather to feel the warm sand under your feet, experts are still warning the public to be prepared.
Extreme heat can affect our bodies in lots of different ways.
Most commonly leading to heat exhaustion or heat stroke.
Those are times when our body gets so overwhelmed with heat that it starts to have problems in its normal functioning, and that can be life-threatening.
Dr. Newhouse says it's important to be aware and have a plan in place if your home gets too hot. Visit friends, family, or a community center with air conditioning, and stay hydrated. The province, meanwhile, says it's prepared to respond with improved heat warning communications and buffed up paramedic staffing.
We've taken the lessons certainly of the past, and we're in a much better position this year in terms of the upcoming heat that we're expecting to see over the summer.
But experts are warning that this heat wave could also exacerbate ongoing environmental issues.
It's extremely unusual to reach 30 degrees in BC in mid-May.
And previous sunny stretches have already led to considerable snowmelt.
Part of the challenge is that water has gone into the rivers, and so we see them quite full right now coming into this event. So there's not a lot of capacity to kind of absorb additional runoff,
which could translate into flooding starting early next week as the heat melts more of the snowpack. On top of the potential floods, wildfires also continue to burn in BC, 41 in total, and the warm weather could make things worse.
With prolonged heat, our fuels become more and more dry and more available to burn.
Right now, Hill says vegetation in the south is green and harder to ignite. But in northeastern BC, where 3 wildfires of note are currently raging, conditions are much drier.
Those fuels are still quite cured and quite susceptible to ignition.
BC's heat wave is forecast to continue right through till Tuesday. Joel Ballard, CBC News, Coquitlam.
Johanna is away tonight. Riley Lachuk joins us instead with your weekend forecast. Riley, just how hot is it going to get?
So we are looking at extremely hot conditions continuing right through into the early part of next week. So we have this special weather statement in place. This is really virtually for the entire province, really 10 to 15 degrees above seasonal when it comes to temperatures through the weekend. And we're going to see the bulk of those temperatures really heating up as we get into Sunday and Monday. So the effects of this, not only heat-related illnesses, but also the freeze level will be significantly higher. And that will allow some of that snowpack in the mountains to start melting and in turn give us a flood risk across a good chunk of the province. The other part of the equation is the hot, dry weather and the wildfire risk. We've seen a lot of wildfires through Alberta, and we'll expect that risk to really intensify as we get into next week. Mainly sunny skies across the interior, the south coast. We're seeing some rain through the northern part of the province, and really Haida Gwaii, Prince Rupert, the northwestern coast, expecting some rain through Saturday. Otherwise, mainly sunny skies along the south coast, Vancouver Island, and into the interior. And really, it's it's just a mix of sun and cloud as we get into Sunday and Monday. Your forecast looks like this for tonight. We're expecting 11, 12 degrees overnight tonight for southern British Columbia. These temperatures about 3 or 4 degrees above seasonal for this time of the year. Much the same for the north. Terrace, Kitimat, Prince Rupert seeing that rain through tonight. We'll see temperatures really warming up in the northeast tomorrow. The Peace region, Fort St. John, Prince George looking at temperatures in the high 20s, even cracking 30 in parts of southern British Columbia, Osoyoos, Kelowna, Kamloops into the 30s, Abbotsford 31 degrees tomorrow under the sunshine. So really take care when you're outside through the day, through the weekend really, and into next week. So the temperatures here 26, 27 degrees through the weekend. This is for Metro Vancouver, along the harbor, along the coast. The inland temperature is more like 31, 34 degrees as we get into next week. 23s for Tuesday and Wednesday, and really not much of a reprieve in terms of conditions, and no real precipitation in the forecast either as we get into the later part of next week.
Thanks, Riley. An RCMP officer and suspect are in hospital after a shooting early this morning in Duncan. Zara Premji has been monitoring this story and joins us live with more. Zara, what have we learned so far?
Well, Michelle, this all started when a man allegedly drove his vehicle into a police cruiser around 6:30 this morning, injuring one of the officers. It happened in the RCMP detachment parking lot as they were preparing their cruiser for patrol duties. In the video provided by a witness, the man appears to be checking something in the back seat of the black SUV before turning toward one of the two approaching officers.
What's going on?
Now, according to police, this then led to the injured officer's partner firing at the suspect, which you see in this video shot by the witness. Now, he explains what he saw happening right in front of him.
Just before the video, you could see he kind of had the hesitation look on what to do. It kind of looked like he's going back to the back of the cop car to the front, and then he went to the back of the car, and that's when the cop came out. And he pulled his gun out and shot him once, and after that, it was kind of just, they had to apprehend him.
Now, Zara, what do we know about what exactly led to this incident in the first place?
RCMP tells CBC they're still unsure actually what the man's intentions were, but this is the second time Duncan RCMP have shot a suspect in recent months. The previous one happened in late March. At this point, the IIO, which is the Independent Police Oversight Agency, has taken over the investigation as they piece together what happened this morning. Now, police say both the officer and the suspect have non-life-threatening injuries. Michelle.
Thanks, Zara. Our Zara Premji reporting live for us tonight. Well, BC's largest social housing provider is returning nearly $2 million of taxpayer money. The not-for-profit Atira is regrouping following an explosive report that revealed financial mismanagement at the organization's highest levels. Earlier this week, a forensic audit into BC Housing determined there was a conflict of interest between the Crown Corporation's former CEO and his spouse, who is the CEO of Atira. The report cited millions given to Atira without proper documentation or oversight. The nonprofit provides housing for women and children fleeing violence. Along with the millions returned, Atira has opted to bring in a third party to review its policies and practices. A Musqueam elder says he has been forced into unsafe living conditions on the First Nation. The 76-year-old wants the band to help him find an alternative place to live, but so far there is no plan for him. As Angela Sterrett reports, he fears his health could be in jeopardy if he doesn't move soon.
I wake up sometimes 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm thinking, oh God, before I open my eyes, I just had this nightmare, and this repeating nightmare. Then I open my eyes. Holy no, it is a nightmare. I am living this.
This is what home looks like for Dunstan Campbell.
I'll turn the light on so it gets a little brighter in here. I'm living this, and it just breaks me up. How anybody could do that to an older man.
But it wasn't always this way. Campbell helped build this home in 1981 and raised his kids here. He moved away in 1992 for work in Kelowna and rented his home out to non-Musqueam people. But in 2010, new tenants moved in, and 2 years ago, he found his home severely damaged.
Now I come back to this, it's dilapidated. I couldn't believe how this could happen.
7 months ago, when the off-reserve home he lived in was sold, he reached out to the band for help. But instead, he was forced to live in his old home he thought was by then condemned, with his tenant as a roommate.
And I said, there's 2 trailers down here from the COVID. They call them the COVID trailer. Why don't you put me up in there till we figure what to do? And they laughed in my face.
In an email to the CBC, Indigenous Services Canada said the band is responsible for the management of housing on reserve. It added that it provided $1.4 million in funding for housing projects to Musqueam over the past 4 years. However, the Assembly of First Nations says federal funding for on-reserve housing in Canada is woefully inadequate. 25% of those living on reserve live in overcrowded conditions. Musqueam Band Chief Wayne Sparrow wouldn't talk to the CBC on record, despite 3 phone calls and text messages. Campbell told the CBC both a private contractor and environmental health officers inspected the home and said it was not condemned. In a text, Sparrow told the CBC that the matter is resolved and the band is in consultation with Campbell. Just yesterday, Campbell said a band social worker provided 2 options of a safer home off reserve and asked for his preference. But there's still no timeline on that potential move.
I've never seen someone live in this condition ever in my life in Musqueam.
Gail Sparrow was the chief of Musqueam in the 1990s, who happens to be the sister of the current chief, Wayne Sparrow.
With our state we're in right now, we could build in an emergency with our financial resources we have. I don't know why they aren't looking at that. That would be the answer, because we do have the resources in place.
The Musqueam Band has not responded to a list of questions the CBC put to it. Angela Sterrett, CBC News, Musqueam.
Is it a motorcycle in the night, construction next door? What sound is driving you crazy, and how are you dealing with it? That's the question being put forward by Vancouver City staff. As Yasmin Gandam explains, it comes as they look to craft new rules around sound.
Whether it's the sound of a garbage truck or loud music at night, Vancouver residents have the chance to sound off on their noise concerns. The city says it's an important opportunity to create a balance between promoting the liveliness of our city and respecting quiet spaces.
Where can we look at providing opportunities for more noise, for outdoor festivals, for music-related events, for arts and culture, economic growth opportunities? And where are areas that we need to look at for them to consider maybe making it a quieter area?
The city of Vancouver has received 29 noise complaints so far this year just regarding the use of leaf blowers, causing a complete ban on the use of leaf blowers in the West End. Residents we spoke to have mixed feelings on the noise.
I live down by the lagoon, Stanley Park Lagoon, and they're planning a major rip-up project there that is going to drive us all out of our buildings. And there doesn't seem to be, noise control does not seem to be an issue in their project.
Especially in the summertime. We should be able to express ourselves and live very, very fun, as long as we're respecting each other's lives as well too.
There are a lot of noisy vehicles. Particularly this corner is almost unbearable all day long, really. You just saw trucks, motorcycles. It's unbelievable.
The bylaw was created in 1989, and the city says it's in need of some major upgrades.
Now is the opportunity for us to really understand what residents feel about the bylaw, what needs updating, what do they like about it, what have we missed, and really modernize and look for opportunities to enhance our noise bylaw.
Under the current bylaw, commercial vehicles are exempt from noise pollution regulation, and businesses are allowed to receive deliveries 24/7, including holidays. The online survey closes at the end of this month, and recommendations will be brought to council in the fall. Yasmin Gandam, CBC News, Vancouver.
Vancouver's Chinatown is receiving a $2.2 million provincial grant to revitalize the historic neighborhood. The province and the Vancouver Chinatown Foundation say the funding will go toward renewing historic storefronts, along with adding new infrastructure and lighting throughout the neighborhood. Chinatown has been the focus of a number of revitalization efforts in recent months after concerns about crime levels and lower foot traffic during the pandemic.
It has been a difficult last 4 years with the targeted anti-Asian hate crimes, social disorder, vandalism, graffiti, random attacks of violence, and being located in the epicenter of the worst mental health and opioid crisis in the country.
Chinatown's business leaders say new non-Chinese businesses have given the community a boost, but the neighborhood must work to maintain its cultural heritage. Coquitlam Little League's former treasurer is facing charges of theft and fraud after allegedly stealing more than $100 million from the league's accounts. Terry Michael was the league's treasurer for 6 years. The theft was discovered when club members reported they had not received refunds after the 2020 baseball season was canceled due to the pandemic. The account had insufficient funds with less than $3,000 remaining. Michael has been charged with 1 count of fraud over $5,000 and 1 count of theft over $5,000. She has been released ahead of her May 19th court appearance. The organization in charge of high school sports in this province may vote to cut gymnastics from its offerings. That has gymnasts worried for themselves and kids who might not get a chance to try the sport.
We're maybe coming into grade 8 next year or in many future years. They won't be able to have the same amazing experience with the community that I've had as well. And that makes me really sad.
We tried to reach BC School Sports but didn't get a response. The organization's motion says gymnastics is becoming too community-based instead of school-based. They're holding their AGM this weekend and will vote on gymnastics' future tomorrow morning. Yesterday, the long-awaited Zelda sequel was released, with lineups in places like Prince George going around the block. Here to explain what all the hype is about is gamer Emily Retza. She joins us from Prince George. Emily, this game has only been out since last night. Have you had a chance to play? What did you think of it?
I have. I've probably played about 8 or 9 hours now, and I'm loving it. I didn't expect anything less from Nintendo, and yeah, I think it's going to be great, and I can't wait to keep going.
Okay, so as a fan of this franchise, you've waited years for this release, and there have been a lot of different versions of this game over the years. So why were fans so excited about this sequel? Why was there so much hype?
Yeah, so I think a lot of the reason why this one specifically was so hyped up was it is a direct sequel to the previous title in the Zelda series. So the Breath of the Wild came out in 2017, and this game is a direct sequel to that. And that was one of the most critically acclaimed games, period, but also one of the most awarded and critically acclaimed Zelda games. And it did win Game of the Year in 2017 as well. So I think a lot of people were just excited to see, you know, how they would navigate that being a sequel and, you know, what they would do with it.
And can you take us a little bit inside the world of Zelda for people who aren't too familiar? And then do you think that this game will actually live up to all of fans' expectations?
Yeah, so, I mean, Zelda is an adventure, action-adventure game with puzzles and enemies, and it started in the 1980s, so it's about as old as Mario, and it's the same idea. You've got your main protagonist. He's a knight, a young boy, and wants to save the princess, so kind of similar to Mario in that way. Zelda has always been innovative in that it was on the original NES, non-linear, so you weren't stuck on one path and you were able to explore a little bit more, and it kind of gave you more freedom. And that's what we're seeing here with this game too, is they were able to open up the world even more, triple the amount of places to explore and to play in than the previous game.
And are you seeing reaction from other players? Are people liking what they're seeing?
Yeah, I think everybody is really happy with it. I know the reviews have been crazy well The game has been crazy well received. It's received lots of 10 out of 10s, and fans seem to be super happy with the game so far. But I mean, it's a game that's can take hundreds of hours to complete, so a lot of us are just scratching the surface on it.
All right, still lots of time to go for you to finish that game. Thank you for joining us, Emily, and hope you have lots of time to play this weekend.
Thank you so much.
If you've ever wondered what it would be like to roam around with dinosaurs up close, well, you're in luck. The Jurassic Live World Tour opened at the Pacific Coliseum today. The event features 24 animatronics dinosaurs more than 40 feet in length. We caught up with some of the animatronic operators about what it takes to put on the show.
Before the show, I had no experience in doing like full body puppetry, any of that kind of stuff. I actually come from a acrobatic background, so I'm used to doing flips and being like just myself. Because of the show, they need like a specific skill set and they need a specific height requirement to be able to fit in these dinosaurs. So during the audition, they put us through these tests and these workouts, and they thought that I could handle the physical demands.
I come from a martial arts background and acting in theater, so I'm coming at it from a very storytelling perspective. Our cast really requires athletic ability, and then being able to layer that on top of storytelling and bringing these dinosaurs to life in front of your eyes is kind of what we're doing here.
It's like a video game. You go left, right, up, down, side to side, and then you learn those, and then you get the conditioning to be able to handle it, and then little by little, it's almost like learning just how to convey emotion in general. Like your head has certain motions, but then as you become more comfortable and as you become more comfortable using it, it almost becomes an extension of your body. So then now, like, it starts to get away from, okay, I need to look left, I need to look right, okay, up, down, and then little by little, it's, oh, now I'm curious, and I'll just naturally convey that emotion. So it takes time, and there's so many funny little exercises that we did.
I've gone through movement training before, but it was definitely new to extend that into, now having a full extra part of my body. And so being able to extend that movement into the neck of a dinosaur and the legs of a dinosaur, and the whole thing about dinoteering is that you might have an emotion or something in your mind and you think that it's coming across, and it isn't always, which is why training was so important for us to be able to practice that in front of people so that they can help us know that we're doing our job correctly and telling the story we want to tell.
For those who frequent South Vancouver regularly, the chances of running, or really walking, into this neighborhood legend are pretty high. His name is Dalvinder Tour. He's 69 and he walks 10 kilometers every day. Marie Zeidler caught up with him and found out the motivation behind his daily walks.
My name is Dalvinder Singh Tour. I'm a family physician here in Vancouver. I'm clinical associate professor of medicine in UBC, and I every day come in this park to have my run, I would say, without fail. I have been doing for the last 30 years. I try not to miss whether it's sunshine or snow. If you count the days when I have missed maybe 15 or 16, only the days when I was sick or I was traveling. It takes me 1 hour, 40 minutes to do 11 laps every day, and 1 lap is 1 kilometer. I love the people around, the dogs, they know me. The one over there, Anna, is a good friend of mine.
Here, Anna, sit. Good girl. My name's Lee Iverson. We've lived across the street for about 15 years now and known Dr. Tour for, I think, 10 of that. For many years, it was with his dog, right? So he had a big black lab, and initially the lab would run with him, and then it would walk with him, and then it would stop and wait for him, and then no more. But we got Hannah about 7 years ago, and as a puppy, we just were out walking in the morning and met the doctor, and he was just there all the time. Bread makes good friends, so especially with dogs. It's just part of the park, right? He's just part of what this place is.
Can you see this? The track. So I have made this track by walking this, and I love this place. See, this is an addiction. I can't go to my office without having this, exercise. These laps, that's the secret of my good health, I would say.
And that's our show for Friday. You can always find our news program online at cbc.ca/BC. Your next local news is right here at 11 after the National with host Zara Premchi. Good night.